Justice Holmes said, "The life of the law has not been logic, it's been experience, the felt necessities of the time, the felt moral and political theories." If he's correct, maybe that explains so much of the give and take throughout American history over what is right and wrong about our laws and their application, a thing we call justice. The law. Learn about it from people who practice it and apply it. This program is about law through the eyes and work of lawyers and judges in our community and its impact on our citizens. We hope you'll find the discussions and information here useful, thought-provoking, and even entertaining. Hi, I'm Terry Miller, and this is Law Talk. I'm extremely excited about our program today. The next two segments, our guest is former Congressman Ed Jenkins of the 9th Congressional District of Georgia. Lives in Jasper, Georgia with his wife Jo, father of 2 daughters and grandchildren, and it's just a wonderful privilege to have you with me today, Ed. Thank you for coming over.
Thank you, Terry. It's a pleasure.
And as you know, this show is about lawyers and judges. Ed Jenkins graduated from the University of Georgia Law School in 1959. He served as an assistant United States attorney. I understand, Ed, you prosecuted a number of moonshining cases up in northern Georgia, where you're originally from. And was a congressional aide for many, many years to his predecessor in Congress, Phil Landrum, and also in the private practice of law in Jasper for years before you went to the Congress in 1977.
That's correct.
You've been retired from your congressional service for 18 years. What do you do with your life now?
Well, first of all, I look after grandchildren, and go to ball games and just take a lot of time with my grandsons. Second of all, I've served one term on the Board of Regents of the University System of Georgia. I thoroughly enjoyed that. The college here in Dalton was one of those 34 colleges that I had the pleasure of sort of overseeing for a few years. And then since then, I've been affiliated with a legislative firm in Washington. I don't go up there too often, once a month for about 2 or 3 days, really advising the firm as to what I think will happen with certain legislation. Of course, the longer I stay out of Washington, the less I know about what is going to happen, and times have changed since 1993, January of 93, when I left.
Well, that's an interesting thing, because I was privileged to serve with you the first 3 years that you were in Washington, from 1977 through 79, so I've been gone a lot longer from the institution itself. Today, and I know you're an observer, what's changed about the institution that is significant to the American people, folks like us back home?
Well, I think the most significant change has been the division of the political parties. Sometime in the early 90s, suddenly the Republicans couldn't get along with the Democrats, and the Democrats couldn't get along with the Republicans. So you've really had such a division that has not been healthy for the country, in my view. When I was there, as you know, while you had separate parties, you nevertheless worked together to attempt to legislate.
Correct.
Today, that does not happen, unfortunately.
What do you think has driven us to an all-or-nothing concept of national politics? That is the perception of folks back home, and I share it to some extent. I know it's fed by a lot of the news networks and talking heads, but that folks just aren't willing to cooperate across party lines to do things that are beneficial for the public at large.
Well, that's a real difficult problem. I think part of it has to do with the talk show host that drives people to one side or the other, and their talk show host on both sides, the very liberal and the very conservative. That has not been healthy in my view. Second of all, you have such a short time now with the internet and so forth to respond that you find people simply responding based upon the party position. And if an issue comes up that the Democrats are for, and you are a Democrat, you have a tendency to go that way, to answer that way. Same thing with the Republicans. And therefore, you're driven further and further apart. That's unfortunate for the country, because basically you go up there to legislate, to do what is good for the country.
And when we come back after this word, I've got to ask you about what are the 2 or 3 significant issues that Congress really needs to deal with?
Well, first of all, the economy is on the forefront. Second of all, which has to do with the economy, are the entitlement programs, the budget deficits that are looming larger and larger every year. Started about 8 years ago. During the during Bill's first presidency, Clinton, we had a surplus. And the concern of a lot of economists was that we might have such a surplus that it would impact us adversely. Of course, those days are gone in a short time, and there are many causes for that.
I want to ask you about that when we come back.
Okay.
After this word.
You work hard to make a better life for you and your family, so it's important for you to consider your estate planning needs. We at Mitchell & Mitchell approach retirement and estate planning as a lifelong process. It is essential that you have the proper advice and legal documents to protect your family's growing savings. As your children grow and your life circumstances change, it is important to review and revise your retirement or estate plan. Whether you're just starting out or well along your career path, we at Mitchell & Mitchell are here to guide you through this important process. Contact us today for a consultation.
When brothers John Mitchell and Wright Mitchell began law practice in the heart of Dalton in 1924, they instilled an ethic of service with honor and integrity that approaches 100 years. Lawyers serving people is who we are, whether serious bodily injury or work injuries, wills, real estate closings, family law, criminal law, services to local governments, Social Security and veterans claims, or business and contract law. We are here to serve.
I know the budget situation that we face nationally didn't come about overnight, and there's plenty of blame across the political spectrum to share. Talking about it as Americans and not party people necessarily from that perspective, how do we get from where you were saying at the conclusion of the President Clinton's administration with projected surpluses to the situation where we're looking at trillions of annual deficit?
Well, first of all, the deficits have a great deal to do with the economy. If we're doing well economically, if we're full employed, our people are paying taxes, there is less to spend on welfare and that type of thing during a healthy economy. So that is number one. Number two, we have fought 2 wars and still fighting one without paying for them. That was unheard of a few years ago. I remember when Lyndon Johnson had a surtax to pay for
the war in Vietnam.
That's right. And we have neglected to pay for what we were spending in defense for the last 10 years probably. Even beyond that to some degree, because we had to rebuild during the Reagan years some of the defense expenditures. So we really have spent a lot of money there. And then both parties went wild in earmarks and special projects and off-the-budget spending. In addition to that, as the population has grown older, more people on Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid, that has increased that cost. And certainly the tax rates, there's 2 theories on this, and we can't solve them, but basically, if you don't have the money, you shouldn't be spending it,
right,
in my view.
Right.
And both parties have neglected that and continue to spend much beyond what we should be.
Well, I know that in the years I worked with your staff and was honored to be there, you were in the Democratic caucus. You were a fiscal conservative.
Yes.
My remembrance back to the late 1970s is that the predominant majority of congressional Democrats from Georgia, including our Senate delegation, were fiscally conservative. I think they called you folks boll weevils.
Yeah. The Blue Dogs.
The Blue Dogs. Is there a solution? You see movements today that are in somewhat desperation, taking our country back, other mantras that you hear. Are there solutions? Having been a member of Congress, having worked on some of these issues, what's it going to require?
Well, first of all, I think the parties have to come together and work together. Second of all, we have to gradually get to the point that we're not spending more than we take in. If you remember, Barbara Conable, who later became president of the World Bank, but he was in Congress, a Republican. He and I put together what we thought was a workable budget amendment, which would basically require that we could not spend greater than the gross national product increase of the previous year.
Our call to bill, yes.
Yes. We passed it in the House, could not get it out of the Senate. But gradually, while that would not mandate a balanced budget next year, it would get you to a balanced budget.
Is that through growth, economic growth?
Yes. And then on the entitlements, this is going to be tough to deal with. It always has been. But we dealt with it one time before, during the Reagan years, when the Democrats and the Republicans came together and really saved Social Security from going under at that time.
Right.
Now, as long as we have the two parties going in opposite directions, that is not going to be solved until it crashes. So I think that in the next year or so, maybe after the election, we'll see the two parties begin to get serious about entitlement spending.
If America's leadership at the national level is unable to come to grips with the types of things you've been talking with us about this afternoon, we hear a lot about America following behind vis-a-vis other developed nations. Is that some likelihood? But we're still the largest economy.
Yes, it is possible. It's possible simply because we're losing a lot of our domestic industry. I hate to hark back to the days when I was the textile king trying to save the textile industry, which is now gone. The carpet industry is still here, but during a recession it's probably not as healthy as it used to be. And the steel industry, the automobile industry, much of that has evaporated. I think you have to do a great deal for domestic industry to make sure that we are producing in this country so that we can balance the trade
exactly
with other countries.
Thank you. We're going to close this segment. Look for us again with Congressman Jenkins on Charter Media. This has been Terry Miller for LawTalk. Justice Holmes said, "The life of the law has not been logic, it's been experience, the felt necessities of the time, the felt moral and political theories." If he's correct, maybe that explains so much of the give and take throughout American history over what is right and wrong about our laws and their application, a thing we call justice. The law. Learn about it from people who practice it and apply it. This program is about law through the eyes and work of lawyers and judges in our community and its impact on our citizens. We hope you'll find the discussions and information here useful, thought-provoking, and even entertaining.